In the summer of 1944, Europe was a continent in ruins. The beaches of Normandy still bore the scars of D-Day, and as Allied forces pushed deeper into Nazi-occupied France, Hitler's armies were fighting desperately to hold the line. But unknown to the Germans, a very different kind of American unit was moving into Europe. They carried no heavy weapons, no artillery, no rifles meant for battle. Instead, they carried paint, rubber, record players, and creativity. They were the Ghost Army, officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, a top-secret deception unit whose job was to trick the German military into believing Allied forces were where they weren't. And for nearly a year, they did it so well, entire divisions of the Wehrmacht moved, attacked, or retreated, all because of illusions made by artists. The story of the Ghost Army begins in 1943, when Allied planners realized that deception had become one of their most powerful weapons. Earlier that year, British intelligence had pulled off Operation Mincemeat, tricking the Germans into defending the wrong part of the Mediterranean before the invasion of Sicily. Inspired by such successes, the US Army decided to create a dedicated deception force of its own, a mobile unit that could fake entire divisions on the battlefield. The idea was simple, but revolutionary. Instead of bullets and bombs, this unit would fight using illusion, sound, and art. They would stage phantom invasions, mock troop movements, and fake artillery barrages, convincing the enemy that massive Allied forces were assembling, when in reality, they weren't. In January 1944, the US Army officially formed the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, composed of about 1,100 men, hand-picked from various technical, artistic, and engineering backgrounds. Their mission was classified under the highest secrecy. The men themselves barely knew what they were joining. They were told only that it was a special unit for unique purposes. What made this unit extraordinary wasn't just their mission, but who they were. Many of these men were artists, set designers, and sound engineers recruited from America's top art schools, including Yale, Pratt Institute, and the Cooper Union. Among them were future creative legends, Bill Blass, who would later become a world-famous fashion designer, Ellsworth Kelly, who became one of the most influential painters of the 20th century, Arthur Singer, who went on to illustrate some of the most iconic wildlife books in America. But in 1944, they weren't painting on canvas, they were painting on war. Their task, to create illusions so convincing that enemy reconnaissance and spies would believe an entire US Army division was operating nearby. The Ghost Army had 4 major tools of trickery: visual, sonic, radio, and special effects deception. 1. Visual deception. Their most striking weapon was the inflatable tank. Made of rubberized canvas and weighing only a few hundred pounds, these life-sized replicas of Sherman tanks, trucks, and artillery pieces could be inflated in minutes using air compressors. From the air, they looked completely real. Aerial reconnaissance photographs would show what appeared to be entire armored divisions forming near the front. But on the ground, they were nothing but rubber and air. The Ghost Army also crafted dummy airfields, fake artillery positions, and camouflaged command posts using paint, canvas, and ingenuity. They even dirtied the vehicles, added fake tracks, and dug imitation foxholes, ensuring that every illusion looked authentic to enemy eyes. 2. Sonic deception. But visuals alone weren't enough. The Germans were experts in listening to Allied radio chatter and sound patterns to detect troop movements. So the Ghost Army brought in sound engineers from Hollywood and Bell Labs to record the sounds of real tanks, trucks, and artillery. They created audio libraries of mechanized divisions moving, setting up camp, or firing weapons, then blasted those recordings through massive loudspeaker systems mounted on jeeps. The speakers could project sound up to 15 miles away. At night, German patrols would hear engines rumbling, trucks moving, soldiers shouting, and assume a huge Allied force was nearby. In reality, it was a handful of sound engineers playing a record. Third, radio deception. The third element was radio. Each real US division had a unique pattern of radio traffic, a kind of electronic fingerprint. The Ghost Army had skilled radio operators who could mimic these transmissions exactly, sending coded messages and creating the illusion of real divisions communicating in the field. They even timed their transmissions to match actual unit schedules, fooling German intelligence into believing those forces were present. 4. Special effects and stagecraft. The final piece was pure theater. Ghost Army soldiers wore the correct unit insignias, created fake command posts, and even impersonated generals when necessary. They painted insignias on trucks and uniforms, created fake military police posts, and spread rumors in nearby villages. So if German spies overheard them, the false story would spread naturally. In many ways, the Ghost Army wasn't fighting a war. They were performing one. In June 1944, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops landed in France, shortly after D-Day. Their first major deception operation came in Normandy, where they were tasked with diverting German attention away from the real troop movements. Over the next 9 months, they conducted more than 20 deception operations across France, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Germany. Each operation was unique, tailored to the terrain, the enemy's intelligence habits, and the needs of the moment. One of their most daring missions occurred in September 1944, near the town of Bettembourg in Luxembourg. The U.S. 4th Armored Division was being moved north for an offensive, but if the Germans discovered their absence, they could attack the exposed flank. So the Ghost Army moved in to pretend to be the 4th Armored Division. In just 48 hours, they inflated hundreds of fake tanks, set up dummy camps, and played sound effects of armored vehicles moving through the forest. They even created phony headquarters, with officers walking about in 4th Division uniforms. German reconnaissance aircraft flew overhead and saw everything they expected to see. The deception worked perfectly. For several days, the Germans remained convinced the 4th Armored was still there, allowing the real unit to move north safely. Perhaps their greatest triumph came in March 1945 in what became known as Operation Viersen. By then, the Allies were preparing to cross the Rhine River, one of the final natural barriers before entering the heart of Germany. To ensure surprise, the 23rd Headquarters was ordered to simulate 2 full divisions, over 30,000 troops, near the town of Viersen, drawing German attention away from the actual crossing point to the south. For several days, the Ghost Army went to work. They set up more than 600 inflatable tanks and vehicles, built mock bridges, and blasted hours of recorded truck and armor sounds day and night. Their radio operators mimicked the communications of the 30th and 79th Infantry Divisions so perfectly that German intelligence reported both divisions in the area, though they were nowhere near it. The deception completely fooled the German 15th Army. When the real Allied divisions crossed the Rhine further south, they met far less resistance. Operation Viersen is credited with saving thousands of Allied lives and accelerating the end of the war. Throughout their campaign, the Ghost Army operated dangerously close to the front. They often deployed within a few miles of German lines, sometimes under artillery fire. They were unarmed or lightly armed. If discovered, they would have had no chance of defending themselves, but their courage and improvisation made them one of the most unique and effective units of the war. Their 20-plus deception operations saved countless lives and confused the enemy enough to create lasting strategic advantages. When the war ended in May 1945, the men of the Ghost Army went home. Their mission remained classified for more than 50 years. They couldn't talk about what they'd done, not even to their families. Many of their stories, sketches, and photographs sat locked away in attics and archives, forgotten by history. It wasn't until the 1990s that the US government finally declassified the Ghost Army's operations, allowing the public to learn what these artists had accomplished. In the decades that followed, researchers and documentarians began piecing together the incredible story. The Ghost Army wasn't just a military experiment. It was a triumph of creativity over destruction, imagination over violence. Their art had saved lives. In 2022, the United States Congress finally passed the Ghost Army Congressional Gold Medal Act, honoring the unit for its unique and highly distinguished service. President Joe Biden signed it into law in February 2022. Only a handful of surviving members were still alive to see their recognition. Men in their late 90s, still modest about their role. What makes the Ghost Army so unforgettable isn't just their success, it's what they represented. They proved that war isn't only fought with guns and bombs. It can also be fought with ideas, ingenuity, and artistry. Their canvas was the battlefield, their brushes were the tools of deception, and their masterpiece was a mirage that saved lives. In an age of destruction, these men chose to create illusions rather than destroy reality. Today, visitors to military museums in the United States can see the remnants of their work: the rubber tanks, the sound equipment, the sketches and paintings made in stolen moments between operations. Each artifact is a reminder that even in humanity's darkest hour, there were those who used creativity to protect rather than kill. Their motto was never officially written, but if it had been, it might have said, "We fight not with bullets, but with imagination." The Ghost Army, the artists who fooled Hitler and painted victory with shadows.